In the studio with us today, we have a special guest who's joining us from, to talk about a few things that are going on around Darwin as well as the whole of the NT, and that is the Honourable Lauren Moss, Minister for a whole bunch of things. Let me just get all the lists out here. It's the Minister for Corporate and Information Services, as well as Minister for Tourism, Sport and Culture. Thank you very much for joining us today, Minister.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure, and hello to all your listeners and your viewers.
So one of the big things that have been going on with you lately is the announcement of the Aboriginal Rangers being made not so much official, because they're already official, but more along the lines of having more power, and I think that's very important.
Absolutely. So we went to the election with a really clear commitment to recognising the work that Rangers do across the Northern Territory and recognising them in our Parks and Wildlife Conservation Act. So what that means is that there now is a category under conservation officers for Aboriginal Rangers, and it allows us to do a whole range more in terms of training and upskilling so that we can make sure Rangers are better supported in enforcing good fishing, hunting and those sorts of activities on their land.
Fantastic. There was a term I saw, they're becoming conservation officers.
Yes.
Now, what does that mean specifically?
Under the Parks and Wildlife Act, currently a conservation officer is somebody who is employed by the Department of Tourism, Sport and Culture. They are our Parks and Wildlife Rangers who are out there with the ability to enact compliance activities around our parks and reserves. So this recognises rangers on an equal footing with those rangers within our legislation, and as I said, allows the opportunity for us to provide a whole range more training and opportunities for Aboriginal Rangers across the Northern Territory. There's also a category called an Honorary Conservation Officer, and that is other people under the Act, so it might be police officers, for example, who are all honorary conservation officers because within their roles they also enforce those rules and regulations around our parks and reserves. So it's just a way within the legislation to recognise the invaluable work that Rangers do and open up a whole range more opportunities for us around training and development, because Aboriginal Rangers have told me, everywhere from the top end right down to desert country, they want more support and they want to work with our department around being able to enforce rules on Aboriginal land.
What are some of the actual things that they've been wanting to enforce? Some of the lists, like I said, we've got a list here of various things, such as illegal activity and other threats. What does that mean?
I don't think it would surprise anyone that the concerns that ranger groups have up and down the track are pretty consistent. They're around people being where they shouldn't be, protection of sacred sites, so making sure that people are acting appropriately around sacred sites, not accessing them when they shouldn't be, but also where we do see illegal hunting and illegal camping, illegal fishing happening on parks and reserves. Those are the main concerns for most of our ranger groups across the Territory, and there are things for people to enforce as well. It can be quite a difficult situation for a ranger to be in when you're confronted by someone who's doing the wrong thing. It has to start with education and it has to start with communication, but it has to flow right through to that being able to fine people for doing the wrong thing. So
does this also include things along the lines of, because at the moment we've got a lot of releases from the Northern Territory Police, Fire and Emergency Services about fire bans and how we're currently in a really dry period. And do the Aboriginal Rangers also help enforce things like that and control burns?
They absolutely do. So Aboriginal Ranger groups, there's 46 recognised groups across the Territory. Fire management's one of the huge parts of their job, and it has been an exceptionally dry season, which has had its perks, but also, of course, it's been lovely. It's been lovely. But, it does make it a lot harder. There have been more fires. It can be harder to control. And where those fires are not done within a, sort of prescribed burn or under a joint management plan, again, it can mean that our rangers and our both parks and our Aboriginal Ranger groups have more ability to be able to control and enforce, against people who are doing the wrong thing.
Excellent. The Aboriginal Rangers, there's about 46 of them, groups in total,
Yes.
all around the NT.
About 1,000 rangers, yeah.
So when will this all take effect?
Obviously, training happens now, so there'll be more training that we'll be able to roll out pretty much immediately. So we're working, the legislation passed Parliament last night, which is really positive, so we can now start to process those Aboriginal Rangers as conservation officers, and that's a really fantastic achievement, I think, and something that I think Rangers will embrace. We've undertaken really extensive consultation with them, and I think everybody's really pleased to see this coming.
Excellent. Anything else you'd like to talk about while you were still on the subject of the Rangers?
In Parliament at present, we are debating the strategic Aboriginal water reserves. It is a policy that has been brought in by this government. It's around making sure that Aboriginal landholders have got access to a proportion of what's known as the consumptive pool, and they can access water for economic development. So I do expect that will pass today, but I think it's a really positive week in terms of supporting jobs on country.
Excellent. Now, as you are the Minister for Tourism, one of the big things that have been happening in Darwin that I've noticed slowly being set up is the light displays that have been going on. Can we talk a bit about that? I mean, the guy he's done the Parchima Light Festival. That was in Alice Springs, right?
He did the Field of Light at Yallara, yes.
That was going around Ayers Rock area, or the Uluru. And so what's he doing here in Darwin?
So Bruce Monroe is a world-renowned light artist.
What a thing to put on your resume.
I know, it's pretty good. There's not that many of them. So he's very well respected. He does beautiful work, and Field of Light has been just phenomenal for attracting visitors to Central Australia. So he is working with the Northern Territory government and local businesses and the community to put on his first city-wide light installation exhibition. So there's about 8 pieces that are happening around the CBD. There's local artists that are also involved, and they will do pieces that will form part of this arts trail, and we look forward to talking a bit more soon about Larrakia involvement as well. So it's really exciting, but wet season is a traditionally quieter time for us up here.
Yep.
So what we're really hoping is that this encourages people to come and enjoy, what we all know as a beautiful time of year. It's vibrant, it's lush, the storms are amazing.
Yeah.
So this is about telling that story.
Excellent. And when can we expect to see them all fully developed and put up?
1st of November. So 1st of November is when it launches. But as you said, I think there's a bit of excitement building because it's pretty hard not to notice the different pieces going up around the place.
I do like the idea as well that it's also kind of like a walking tour that you can take yourself to see them all, which I think is lovely.
You can. So you can take yourself for a walking tour. There are also local tourism businesses that are developing different tours and experiences, local restaurants and cafes that are developing different things around this. So I think it's going to be something
They're using candles on their tables now.
Oh, there you go. Playing with light, exactly. But it's just a great opportunity for everyone to get involved, and I've really been taken by I think the sense of community and excitement that's built around it.
Yeah, I think it's great. Now, one of the big things that are also coming up soon is the AFL,
yes.
or the AFL as we call it. No, the NTFL is going to be going really, really big. Radio Larrakia, Aboriginal Indigenous Radio, and Aboriginal TV Channel 4. We broadcast the NTFL games on Monday nights from 7 o'clock until 9.
Which is fabulous.
Which is great. And we also broadcast it nationally through Australian Indigenous Radio. And it goes throughout all of Australia to 2,400 communities. And this is what we're going to be talking about now is one of the bigger things that are also happening very, very soon.
Yeah. So today I was really pleased to stand with the Gold Coast Suns and Melbourne Football Club to announce the next 4-year agreement that will see those big games continue to be played in Darwin and Alice Springs. So it'll be Gold Coast Suns up here in the top end, Melbourne Football Club continuing on their relationship down in Central Australia over the next 4 years. So I think that's really positive. There are many opportunities for us to build on the pathways aspect of this as well. So, Gold Coast Suns are talking about their spots within the AFLW for Territory women. I think that's an excellent opportunity. So we're really pleased with it, and I think Territorians will be too.
I do love the fact that in Darwin especially, we've got a very, very avid and, I was going to say proactive, but the people love it, is the Women's League, especially for not just NRL, but for the AFL. And it's good to see that we're getting a lot more support for it here in Darwin.
Yeah, I think the support's always been there for it, and codes I think are really, in the last few years, have started to take that aspect of their game much more seriously, and they have to. There is so much talent coming out of this country. It's the women and the girls, and they're amazing players, and they deserve every opportunity just like the male players do. So we're probably a way off achieving parity there, but I think there's there's really good signs that there are so many more opportunities now, and we're really pleased to support that. So we will see AFLW games in the Territory as part of this agreement, and it's just really wonderful for Territory women and girls to be able to see others who are at the top of their game, but to see others from the Territory that are at the top of their game on the national stage. It's a really lovely thing, and it's really important.
Well, not only that, we also get, if these national teams come, they poach local players. I think that's great.
They do.
Are you an AFL player yourself? Were you ever into AFL?
Oh, look, I'm not an AFL player. No, not at all.
I can see you doing a specky on the back of something.
You reckon? No, look, but I really enjoy watching those women play. They're just super talented, really quick.
Tough as well.
They are tough, and it's always a fantastic game to watch, and particularly special when we see those Territory women who get drafted, and just, I think in the Territory we always back our own, and we've always been really good at that, and I think that there'll be many more success stories for us to celebrate together over the next few years.
Excellent. And before we move on, just be sure to keep watching Aboriginal TV Channel 4 for, of course, the AFL on Monday nights at 7.
Absolutely.
Any other things you'd like to mention while we have you on the air?
It's probably not everything, but, I look forward to coming back and talking about, other developments across my portfolios. There's lots of exciting things happening.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Minister.
Thank you.